Well, folks, we've been in a series on leadership, and we call it Excellence in Leadership. And we've been talking about the different aspects of excellence in leadership. And so we've talked about the marks of excellence. And we said that the marks of excellence are those marks that set you apart for God's exclusive use. And we referred to excellence as it occurred in the early church. The early church was designed to present the gospel in a way that everybody would understand. And it was designed to carry the gospel wherever it went. And then we talked about the attitude for excellence. And in that attitude, we talked about the believer's attitude and what they're supposed to have and what they're supposed to think when it comes to having a great attitude toward excellence. So much of the time in the church, we just wallow around and just accept anything. And we can't do that. We have to have the right attitude. Well, today we're going to talk about how do we motivate somebody for excellence. And so we're going to motivate for excellence. And we have a leadership dynamic we need to look at. The leadership dynamic says, believe the best in people to acquire the best from people. When I was a child growing up, my father was a successful businessman. He would always tell me to believe the best in people. He would say, Steve, if you believe the best in people, they would, for the most part, not disappoint you. He lived by that standard the entire time he lived on this earth. I watched him in business and I watched him in church, and he did, and he in that statement was put to the test over and over again. In my entire ministry life, I tried to operate on that principle. I remember when I graduated from seminary, I went to pastor a church in Illinois. In June of that year, I took the family and we went to Glorieta, New Mexico, to be a part of a family enrichment conference. I called back at the church every day to make sure that everything was going well. One day I called and my secretary said to me, Pastor, we can handle everything here. Believe in us and we will not disappoint you. Enjoy your time with your family. I learned from my father and my secretary that they were wise and insightful. That statement became the foundation for my ministry for years to come. Believe the best in people to acquire the best from people. Anyone who has served in a place of leadership has had to deal with the problem of motivation, getting people to do what they should do. It's easier said than done. Motivation is a subject which captivates every church leader. This subject has caused many pastors, church staff, and leaders to ask, how do I get people to carry out their church-related responsibilities? How do we go about motivating a worker? How do I get the church members to visit and to contact absentees and prospects? Each of these questions deal with the problem of motivation. And so the first thing that we have to say is we have to learn to motivate without heartache. So the question is, how do we motivate people? And I was at a conference, and we're talking to church leaders about motivation. And I asked them, what is a good definition of motivation? And here's what they said to me. Motivation is that which causes an individual to act. I thought that was a good definition. Motivation is also turning people on. And then another said, motivation is leading people to do what they don't necessarily want to do. Each definition is good. In each explanation, there's an underlying tone. Motivation is leading people. Leading is the main difference between a motivator and a manipulator. A motivator believes in excellence. In the same conference, the conferees were asked to give the characteristics of a manipulator. Their responses were very different. They said, a manipulator is a con artist. He tricks people into doing what they want to do. He's also a power-oriented person. They also said a manipulator is a person who fools people into doing something. And then their last definition was, his nature is deceitful. He's trying to trick people into doing what they don't necessarily want to do. So motivation comes from two sources. Motivation is internal, and motivation is external in every way. And when you look at internal motivation and external motivation, you'll find the difference between the two people. So next time we'll look at this and see the difference between internal motivation and external motivation.